Let's welcome now for our next keynote, Senior Partner at McKinsey and Company and a core leader in North America tech services as well as Quantum Black AI. Put your hands together, everyone. Let's welcome Pallav Jain.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's a real pleasure to talk to you today about Agentic AI and impact on tech services. Before I go into the content, let me just do a quick introduction. I'm a senior partner with McKinsey. I've been with McKinsey for more than 20 years. I do all of my work in tech, media, and telecom. I started the analytics service line for tech, media, and telecom practice of McKinsey in 2011. I ran it for 10 years till 2021. And since then, I've been leading our work on GenAI and tech services. So before I start the presentation, let me actually just cover 5 main messages that I'm hoping you will take away from this talk. Number 1, Agentic AI systems are more disruptive than GenAI because they allow organizations to autonomously perform complex tasks. Number 2, because of the advances in technology, these Agentic AI systems are here and now. Our clients are already deploying them, and they're already experimenting with them. Number 3, the overall impact of these systems is going to be profound. When we think about the impact on GDP, we think the Agentic AI systems will create about 3 to 5 trillion of impact on the world economy. And second, when we think about labor productivity, we actually believe about 50% of the activities that are performed today could be automated through Agentic AI in the next 20 years. So then when you think about the impact on service providers, I think there are 2 things that we would kind of share. One, we actually believe there is a significant opportunity for service providers. This is going to unlock new areas because IT is now going to be the HR department. So it's going to unlock new areas that are not accessible to technology spent today. And second, it will create clear winners and losers. And the reason I say that is the winners in the Agentic AI world will be the service providers who can actually transform their business model. And there are clear imperatives and clear actions that service providers have to take to capture this opportunity. So with this setup, let me actually dive in and kind of talk a bit about, so what do we mean by Agentic AI? So look, when we talk about Agentic AI, the way I describe it is, these are systems that can perceive, plan, think, act, remember, and learn. So let's take each one of these, and because of advances in technology, frankly, in the last 6 months, a lot of these capabilities are possible. Before I dive into that, if you just reflect on it, any system that can do those things actually comes close to mimicking a human. So now let's talk about what makes this possible. As we all know now, the foundation models have become actually multimodal. They can take data both from text, audio, and video. So systems now have an ability to perceive the environment around them and ingest data in different ways. The second thing is, with the launch of O1, we have now moved from System 1 thinking, which was pattern recognition, to System 2 thinking, where actually the models can take the time, break complex problems into smaller steps, and be able to solve them. So now we have actually got systems that can do thinking and reasoning. Number 3, when you combine things like Mariner, Operator, RAG, you actually now have systems that can act, that can actually connect to the workflows and use the tools that the agents are using today and take action. And number 4, when you combine large context windows, which is short-term memory, and knowledge graphs, which is long-term memory, you actually now have systems that have short-term and long-term memory. And hence, they can actually reduce the errors, and they can personalize the interactions. So you combine all of this together, that's kind of what makes an Agentic AI system. Now, actually, the journey to Agentic AI system is basically building upon the advances that have happened in generative AI over the last year or 18 months. So we started with foundation models These are large models trained on generalized data set that are not purpose-built. Then we went to fine-tuning models. Fine-tuned models are purpose-built. They're customized for a certain context so that they can work better for that context. Then we combine that with RAG. What is RAG? RAG allows us the ability to pull relevant information in real time. So now we are not using models that were based on past data, but can take the latest data as a prompt and as an input. And then, over time, we went to single agent models. Single agent models perform a series of tasks, but they are blind to the overall workflow. And you combine all of these capabilities together, we are now in the agentic AI world, where actually we have multiple agents working together to solve complex problems. And that's what agentic AI is. I'm going to probably take one more minute to just bring to life what agentic AI systems are. I think there is a common misconception that maybe agentic AI systems are monolithic agents. But in reality, the way to think about these systems is they are modular. They are composed of small agents that are purpose-built for certain tasks. They are scalable because you can combine those small agents in different ways to solve different workflows. And hence, you can extend what you did for one workflow into other workflows. They're robust because you're now building customizable small agents, so you can actually reduce hallucination and other issues that you typically see with large models. And hence, you are able to combine all of these capabilities together to actually deploy agentic AI at scale for workflows. So sorry, that was a long setup on what is agentic AI. Now let's talk about what the impact of agentic AI would be. So when we as McKinsey think about the impact of agentic AI, we thought about it in two ways. One, what would be its contribution to the economy? And second is, how will it change the way we do work? So when we think about contribution to the economy, our belief is agentic AI, when fully scaled, could add as much as 3 to 5 trillion to the world GDP. So it's going to be one of the most powerful forces to drive GDP growth over the next few years, several years. But second, when you think about labor productivity, we actually did a very detailed study. We looked at 800 jobs. We looked at 2,100 activities that are done as part of those jobs. And then we tried to understand what the impact of agentic AI would be on each of those activities. And what we found is we believe that about 50% of those activities that are done today can be automated in the next 20 years. Now, I would tell you, actually, we are conservative versus others. There are reports out there where NVIDIA, for example, believes that the impact of agentic AI would be 3x higher than what we show here. Or, other researchers believe that about 35% of the activities that we do today can be automated in the next 10 years. So we have been a bit conservative. Now, I think when you see the impact, which I think is profound, the two questions that come to mind is, what is the pace at which agentic AI could be deployed? When is this impact going to materialize? And second is, what is the impact for the service providers? So look, the reality is, when we look at GenAI, since agentic AI is really in infancy, we look at GenAI for what do we learn from scaling GenAI solutions. And frankly, the picture isn't as rosy. The way I would say it is real world is messy. And so when GenAI solutions went out of the lab and met the real world, we found some real blockers and challenges. And those challenges were data, AI and security and compliance, and talent and operating model. What I would actually argue, by the way, because of these reasons, some of the other statistics you see on the right-hand side of this chart, what we find is that only less than 10% of the enterprises are actually scaling their GenAI POCs. And less than 5% of the GenAI POCs use cases are actually being scaled. So there has been a real challenge in scaling GenAI. I would actually argue that this challenge is going to be even more acute for agentic AI. for two reasons. One, agentic AI requires access to far more data sets because you want the system to work autonomously. So it requires access to broader data sets. And second, really importantly, it requires integration with system of records. In order for it to be able to act, it has to integrate into workflows and tools and system of records, which causes the security issue to be even bigger. So actually, when I think about this, I would summarize my position as agentic AI will be very disruptive, but the pace would be a bit muted because of real-world challenges. So then, let's talk about what the implications for the service providers would be. When we think about it, we think there are three clear implications. First, the productivity imperative is real. Based on the early deployment of agentic AI use cases, we have seen about 20 deployments. We have seen somewhere between 20 to all the way to 90% productivity improvement. However, one of the key learnings from those is it requires fundamental reimagining and redesigning of the workflows. You cannot apply agentic AI in current processes. You have to redesign processes to be able to capture the full value. The second thing that we find is while this productivity imperative actually looks like it could put pressure on service provider revenues, if you think about the second order effects, when agentic AI is applied broadly into other workflows and systems, it could create a significant opportunity for the service providers. It can open up opportunities in terms of new offerings, and frankly, give access to a revenue pool that is 5 to 7x of the revenue pool that the service providers play in today. Not that service providers will capture all of that, but that is the revenue pool that's going to become available. The third thing that we see is actually there will be fundamental new capabilities that will be needed to capture this revenue pool. It will require a business model transformation. And typically, when I have talked to our clients about this, the question they ask me is, my operations and tech teams are already very busy delivering the 5% productivity that I need to do every year. How do I actually build this capacity within the organization to do the transformation? And that's kind of why we talk about this AI native business within a business, right? You almost need a set of capacity and folks who are thinking about reimagining the business for the future. So that's number one. And then the second thing is, there are 2 or 3 things that the service providers will have to deal with. One is, how do they actually preserve their sources of differentiation? So how do you take your domain knowledge, your workflow knowledge, and really convert that into IP that you can actually protect? Second is, it will have implications on the service provider talent model. And third is, it will have implications on the service provider commercial model. So frankly, there is a significant opportunity, but it will require service providers to really transform their business model around multiple dimensions to capture this opportunity. So let's dive a bit deeper into each one of these areas. So like I said, we are in early days on agentic AI, but we've already seen about 20 deployments just we as McKinsey have done with our clients. And we have seen anywhere between 20 to 90% productivity across these deployments. Let me bring to life one of this deployment. So we have a healthcare client who basically has an army of doctors and nurses whose job is to actually write appeals letters for denial of coverage, insurance coverage. And when you think about what they do is whenever their case comes, they have to go and extract data from the electronic medical record to find the symptoms that the patient had on the day he presented himself. They have to then diagnose the condition of the patient based on those symptoms. They have to figure out what treatment is allowed by the insurance companies for those conditions and what exceptions exist. And then they have to combine all of that together into a letter where you apply human reasoning to argue why a certain treatment should be covered. We actually we built an agentic AI solution that does all of this in 10 minutes. And it used to take these doctors and nurses about 5 to 6 hours for every single one of those cases. So that's the power of agentic AI, where you could actually see as much as 80 to 90% improvement in productivity. There are other such use cases, but that just brings to life essentially what's possible. Now, one of the learnings that we had when we did this is in order to capture this value, we had to completely redesign the workflows for how that service provider was actually handling these appeals cases. We had to change the front end. We had to make sure that the nurses now actually were reviewing the letters, not writing the letters. We had to actually make sure they had information that they needed to be able to review the letters. And we had to capture the edits they were making to the letter so that the system could learn from it and could actually make better letters on an ongoing basis. So this required a fundamental redesign of the workflows. So the main message here is there is significant productivity opportunity, but it requires redesign of workflows and really reimagining how the business should run. So let me switch gears now and talk a bit about why we believe there is revenue opportunity for service providers. So as you can imagine, a lot of our clients are asking us, what is the nature of opportunity from agentic AI? I described to you that there's about 3 to 5 trillion of opportunity. When we break it up, essentially what you see on this chart is the top row, 87% of that value creation requires fundamental transformation and redesign of business processes. That creates opportunity for service providers. You can bring your design thinking, you can bring your system integration capabilities, your data engineering capabilities to actually enable organizations, your customers, to do this transformation. The second thing that we looked at is how much of that 87% would use prepackaged standard agents versus would require vertical-specific custom agents. And what you see is, yes, 45% of the value can be captured by prepackaged standard agents, but another 42% will require building custom agents for different verticals and domains. Both of these, by the way, represent opportunities. For prepackaged agents, you will actually need configuration and implementation, but custom agents represent a significant incremental opportunity for service providers. So when we combine that all together, the way we think about it is today, service providers are actually playing in a market that is about 1.7 to 1.8 trillion. But there are revenue pools that are adjacent to this market that open up by applying agentic AI. First is new offerings and services, AI, MLOps, increase in more infrastructure services, et cetera. That creates another 1.5 to 1.7 trillion of opportunity. But more importantly, the other two bars on the left-hand side, or right-hand side, sorry, are the horizontal agents that I described, which are disrupting the GNA or sales functions, and the vertical custom agents, which is the last bar on the right-hand side, represent significant incremental potential for the service providers. So that's the opportunity for the service providers. So then, if we take a minute and reflect on, well, what does it take to capture this opportunity? It requires the service providers to bring together a certain set of capabilities. One is their domain expertise. Second is their really deep knowledge of the customer's workflows. We know that a lot of these workflows are not documented, and frankly, there is a deep understanding that is needed to actually be able to create agents for these workflows. So those two are clear capabilities and starting point where service providers are differentiated. But they have to combine that capability with other sets of capabilities, which is first, ability to actually deploy and manage these agents. So you need an agent orchestration platform. Second, AI risk is a real concern because you have autonomous agents who are working around in your workflows. So your ability to monitor, validate, and manage from a security perspective these agents is also critical. So these are the capabilities that are needed to be combined together to actually create solutions that capture that opportunity. Again, that begs the question, can the existing team that is working on existing processes in existing ways reimagine the business this way? Or do you need an AI native business within a business to actually capture the opportunity? If we then also kind of extend further what this transformation represents for service providers, I think there are 5 things on this slide, but I would combine them into 3 themes. One theme is, how do you combine your domain expertise with ease or with agents that can be deployed easily and managed easily? And I call that as the big theme here is, how do you productize your IP? How do you actually make sure that your solutions don't have to be customized client by client, but actually take your IP, create it into products that are easily deployable? So that's one fundamental change for the service providers. The second thing is, it requires a commercial model change. We have to go away from T&M, seat-based pricing, et cetera, to outcome-based pricing and different pricing models. And that is critical to capture the value that you will create for your customers. And then the third thing is the talent model, and the operating model also requires a reset, especially on 2 dimensions. One is, we are going to be in a world where humans and agents are going to work together. And a lot of our clients are asking us, well, what is this operating model? How do we actually make it work? What are the implications for how work gets done? And second is, the traditional pyramid actually could go away. And so how do you build the capabilities within the organization and upskill the organization is require a different approach. So these are the 3 fundamental changes that service providers would have to tackle as they want to capture the opportunity from Agentic AI. So in short, actually, my friend Noshir told me, leave the audience with 3 numbers that they can remember. So I'll leave you with 3 numbers. One is 3 to 5 trillion of GDP impact from Agentic AI. Second is 50% of activities that we do today will get automated in the next 20 years. And third is, it can create opportunity in adjacent revenue pools that is about 5 to 7x of the revenue pools we play in today. But all of that requires a fundamental transformation in our business model and how we work. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.